Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's Paid Family Leave webinar. I'm Jen Donovan from the Board's Stakeholder Engagement Unit, and joining me is Courtney Valley from our Office of General Counsel. Today, we will provide an overview of New York State's paid family leave benefit as it pertains to bonding with a newly born, adopted, or fostered child, including updates for 2024 and resources to help you. We will be using the chat feature to receive your questions today. You may enter your questions throughout the presentation in the chat box located on the right side of your screen, but we will wait until the end of the presentation to answer them. Courtney will answer as many of your questions as she can, but if you have questions we don't get to today, or if you think of something after the session ends, we will be providing you with resources at the end of the presentation. Your name and email were given to us when you signed in today. However, if you have a specific topic you'd like to discuss more in depth, please share that topic along with contact information in the chat box so the appropriate board staff can follow up with you. The chat settings are configured so that only panelists can see any questions or comments that come in, so you don't have to worry about others seeing your personal information. With that, we will get started. Since its implementation in 2018, paid family leave benefits have been significantly enhanced to further improve the lives of working New Yorkers and their families, including providing more time off, more uses for paid family leave, and more financial security. In today's presentation, we'll start by discussing why we need paid family leave and then cover some basics you need to know, including the 3 original uses of paid family leave, an overview of the benefits, how much it costs, who is eligible, and steps you need to take to request paid family leave for a newly born, adopted, or fostered child. We'll review some frequently asked questions about this type of leave, point you to some helpful resources, and then leave time at the end for your questions. You can submit your questions at any time during this presentation using the chat function, but just a reminder that we're going to hold them all until the end. So why do we need paid family leave? For too long, employees have struggled to maintain their jobs when they need to care for a loved one during a specific time of need, whether that's welcoming a new baby, caring for a family member with a serious health condition, or dealing with family pressures when a loved one is deployed abroad on active military service. Employees in these situations face the stress of losing income when they need to take time off to help their family, and also fear their job may be gone when the family situation is over. In response to these needs, New York took action, and in April 2016, New York Paid Family Leave, the nation's strongest and most comprehensive paid family leave policy, was signed into law. Paid family leave is employee-funded insurance that helps employees be there for their family when they're most needed. Because of paid family leave, workers across New York no longer have to choose between caring for their loved ones and their jobs, as we now have employee-paid insurance to help in these critical times. Paid family leave provides job-protected paid time off so you can bond with a newly born, adopted, or fostered child, care for a family member with a serious health condition, or assist loved ones when a spouse, domestic partner, child, or parent is called to active military service abroad. In addition to paid time off, New York's paid family leave also has strong employee protections. You are guaranteed to return to the same or comparable job after taking paid family leave. A comparable job is defined as a position with comparable employment benefits, pay, and other terms and conditions of employment. You are guaranteed continuation of health insurance while out on paid family leave, on the same terms as if you had continued to work. If you contribute to the cost of your health insurance, you must continue paying your portion of the premium while on leave. You are also guaranteed protection from discrimination and retaliation. Requesting or taking paid family leave cannot be held against you. Today, we will focus on using paid family leave to bond with a newly born, adopted, or fostered child. Paid family leave has been shown to have a number of health benefits for parents and children. New mothers who take paid family leave have fewer postpartum depression symptoms, higher breastfeeding rates, and breastfeed longer. Parents are less stressed and have stronger parent-child bonding. Infants have fewer infections and are generally healthier. Paid family leave provides time for parents to bond with a new child within the first 12 months of the child's birth, adoption, or foster placement. This includes children born, adopted, or placed in foster care in 2023, as long as the leave is taken and completed within the first 12 months of the foster placement. Mothers and fathers, including same-sex parents, are all provided the same opportunity to bond with their child. Parents who work for different employers can take paid family leave at the same time to bond with the same child. Parents who work for the same employer can take it at the same time unless their employer prohibits it. In that case, they can take leave separately over the first 12 months following the child's birth, adoption, or foster placement. It's important to note that expectant mothers cannot take paid family leave for their own pregnancy. They can take it after the baby is born because paid family leave is only used to care for family members. Now let's take a look at the specific benefits available to you under paid family leave. Eligible employees are able to take up to 12 weeks of paid family leave at 67% of their average weekly wage, capped at 67% of the New York State average weekly wage. An employee's average weekly wage is based on their last 8 weeks of pay prior to taking paid family leave. For 2024, the New York State average weekly wage is $1,718.15. That means the maximum weekly benefit for 2024 is $1,151.16. This is $20.08 more than the maximum weekly benefit from 2023. It's important to note that employees can take this paid time off all at once or intermittently, but it must always be in full-day increments. To estimate your wage benefit, use the 2024 calculator on the Paid Family Leave website. Paid family leave is fully funded through employee contributions. The contribution rate is reviewed annually and is subject to change by the New York State Department of Financial Services. In 2024, the payroll contribution is 0.373% of an employee's gross wages each pay period. The maximum annual contribution is $333.25. This is $66.18 less than 2023. Employees earning less than the current New York State average weekly wage of $1,718.15 will contribute less than the annual cap of $333.25, consistent with their actual wages. To estimate deductions, you can use the 2024 payroll deduction calculator on the Paid Family Leave website. So to summarize the benefits and contributions for 2024, the maximum weekly benefit has increased from $1,131.08 to $1,151.16. Also, as of January 1st, 2024, employers can deduct at the rate of 0.373% of an employee's gross wages each pay period, but capped at an annual maximum of $333.25. Now that we've covered the types of leave, the benefits, and the costs, let's discuss who's covered and eligible for paid family leave. Most employees who work for private employers in New York State are covered under paid family leave. If you work for a public employer, your employer may opt into the program. If you're a public employee represented by a union, you may be covered if paid family leave is collectively bargained. For covered employees, eligibility for taking paid family leave depends on meeting specific requirements for the amount of time employees have worked for their employer. Full-time employees, including domestic workers, who regularly work 20 or more hours per week, are eligible for paid family leave after 26 consecutive weeks of employment with the same employer. Part-time employees who work a regular schedule of less than 20 hours per week are eligible after working 175 days, which do not need to be consecutive. Citizenship or immigration status is not a factor in employee eligibility. Paid family leave coverage is not optional for eligible employees. You can waive coverage if you regularly work 20 or more hours per week, but won't be in employment 26 consecutive weeks, or if you regularly work fewer than 20 hours per week and won't work 175 days in a 52-week period. Seasonal workers are a good example of this, as they may work full-time, but for only 3 months out of the year. If you meet the criteria for waiving coverage, your employer must provide you with a waiver form, which is also available on the Paid Family Leave website. If you waive coverage, you will not make contributions and will not be eligible for paid family leave benefits. Employers should keep a copy of your waiver on file. If your schedule changes such that you no longer qualify for a waiver, your waiver will be automatically revoked within 8 weeks of the schedule change. You can also voluntarily revoke a waiver at any time. If your waiver is revoked, your employer will begin taking paid family leave contributions and collect any retroactive amounts due. Now we'll cover how to request paid family leave for bonding with your newly born, adopted, or fostered child, as well as how disputes and discrimination issues will be handled. As previously mentioned, paid family leave is now fully phased in. If you're an eligible employee, the maximum benefit is available to you once every 52 weeks. When you're ready to request leave to care for bonding with your newly born, adopted, or fostered child, there are 3 basic steps. Step 1 is to notify your employer at least 30 days before the start of your leave if foreseeable, or as soon as possible. Step 2 is to complete the request forms. Step 3 is to send all the required forms to the insurance carrier. The insurance carrier must pay or deny your request within 18 calendar days of receiving the completed request or the first day of leave, whichever is later. You must submit your completed request package to your employer's insurance carrier within 30 days after the start of your leave to avoid losing benefits. Now we'll take a look at each of these steps a little more in depth. Step 1 is to inform your employer. Let your employer know at least 30 days before your leave will start if it's foreseeable. For example, you may be planning to take paid family leave after your newborn's due date, or in the case of adoption or fostering, after your placement date. Or maybe you will choose to take it at a later date, anytime within the first 12 months of the child's birth or placement. Notify your employer as soon as you know the dates you want to take leave. If you need to take bonding leave unexpectedly and 30 days notice isn't possible, for example, in the case of an early birth or last-minute foster placement, notify your employer as soon as possible. Step 2 is to complete the required paid family leave request forms. For bonding leave, your request will contain 2 forms. The first one, Request for Paid Family Leave, or Form PFL-1, gives your insurance company information about you. The second form, Bonding Certification, or Form PFL-2, requires information to confirm that the birth, adoption, or foster placement has occurred or will occur. You can get paid family leave request forms from your employer, employer's insurance carrier, or directly from paidfamilyleave.ny.gov/forms. First, we'll look at the request for paid family leave, or Form PFL-1. Every employee who is requesting paid family leave starts with this form. It asks for basic information about you and the leave you want to take, and has a section for your employer to complete as well. You will submit this form to your employer's insurance carrier along with other completed forms for the type of leave you're taking. Form PFL-1 has 2 parts. You are responsible for filling out Part A, and your employer is responsible for filling out Part B. The first section of Part A covers your personal information, including your address, your Social Security number or tax identification number, and your date of birth. You must also state why you are requesting the leave and how it pertains to you. Next, indicate if you expect your leave to be a continuous period or intermittent. You may not know all the dates for certain. so you can indicate that they are estimated and update your insurer if a change is needed. Finally, you must provide information about your employment, including your employer's location and phone number, your date of hire, your average gross weekly wage, whether you have more than one employer, if you are taking paid family leave from the other employer, and if you are currently receiving workers' compensation lost wage benefits. You then need to sign and date Part A of the form and give it to your employer, who will then complete Part B of the form. Before giving this form to your employer, make sure to make a copy of Form PFL-1. Your employer has 3 business days to fill out Part B of Form PFL-1 and return it to you. If your employer does not return the form, you can still proceed with your paid family leave request. Next, you must complete the bonding certification, or Form PFL-2. You will need to provide information about the child, including date of birth, whether the child lives with you, and evidence of your relationship to the child. Along with the bonding certification form, you must provide proof of your relationship to the child with a supporting document. The type of supporting documentation you provide, along with Form PFL-1 and Form PFL-2, will differ based on the kind of bonding leave you are requesting. Let's take a look at supporting documentation details for bonding leave. The supporting documents shown on this chart are listed in order of preference for each situation. You should submit the preferred document to the insurance carrier if it is available. If you're the birthing parent, you can submit the following documentation before you have your child: an original copy of a healthcare provider certification of pregnancy. If you're the birthing parent, you can submit the following documentation after you have your child: a copy of the child's birth certificate, if available, or an original copy of a healthcare provider certification of birth. If you are an individual who is not the birthing parent, you can submit the following documentation: a copy of the child's birth certificate naming you as the second parent. If this is not available, you can provide a court order affiliation from family court or a voluntary acknowledgement of paternity, both establishing legal fatherhood. These may be used when parents are not married. Alternatively, the individual who is not the birthing parent can provide the same documents as the birthing parent, plus a second document verifying the relationship to the birthing parent. For example, a marriage certificate, civil union, or evidence of domestic partnership. If you are a foster parent, you must provide a letter of foster care placement issued by a county or city Department of Social Services or a local voluntary agency. If you aren't named on the placement document, you need to provide a copy of the placement document and another document proving your relationship to the parent who is named, for example, a marriage certificate. If you're an adoptive parent, you must provide a court document finalizing the adoption or documentation proving the adoption is moving forward, such as a signed statement from an adoption agency that the employee is in the process of adopting a child. Again, if you aren't named on the adoption document, you need to provide a copy of the placement document and another document proving your relationship to the parent who is named, for example, a marriage certificate. You are also asked to state the date of foster care or adoption placement if applicable. Once you've obtained the appropriate documents, you then need to sign and date Form PFL-2. A listing of these documentation options and their descriptions is on Form PFL-2. Step 3 is to send all forms to your employer's insurance carrier. Before submitting your forms, make sure to make a copy of Form PFL-1 and Form PFL-2. You will submit the Form PFL-1 and Form PFL-2 to your employer's paid family leave insurance carrier or directly to your employer if they are self-insured. This address can be found in Part B, Question 13 of Form PFL-1. This is the section your employer completed. If the carrier's address is not on the form, ask your employer or contact the Paid Family Leave helpline at 844-337-6303 for assistance. The insurance carrier must pay or deny within 18 calendar days of receiving your completed request, or the first day of leave, whichever is later. If for some reason your paid family leave request is denied, or you have another claim-related dispute, such as the amount of your benefits or timeliness of a carrier's decision, you may request to have the denial reviewed by a neutral arbitrator. Your insurance carrier, or employer if self-insured, will notify you of the reason for denial and provide you with information about requesting arbitration. Arbitration for paid family leave is handled by NAM, National Arbitration and Mediation. More information on arbitration is available at nyspfla.namadr.com. As mentioned earlier, your employer may not discriminate against you for requesting or taking paid family leave, and you are guaranteed job protection with the same or a comparable job upon return from paid family leave. If your employer does not return you to your same or comparable job, terminates you, reduces your pay and or benefits, or disciplines you in any way as a result of you requesting or taking paid family leave, you can file a discrimination claim with the Workers' Compensation Board. An administrative law judge may order an employer to reinstate an employee, pay any lost wages, pay attorney's fees, and pay up to $500 in penalties. The process and forms are available at paidfamilyleave.ny.gov, or you can call the Paid Family Leave Helpline for assistance at 844-337-6303. There are a few frequently asked questions about paid family leave and other leave policies that may be helpful for you to know. There are several similarities between New York's paid family leave and the Federal Family and Medical Leave Act. Both provide leave for bonding with a child, caring for a family member with a serious health condition, and assisting when a family member is deployed on active military service abroad. You're also guaranteed that you will return to the same or comparable position, and your health insurance will continue on the same terms as if you had continued to work. If you contribute to the cost of your health insurance, you must continue to pay your portion of the premium cost while on leave. But there are a number of key differences. Paid family leave is paid, FMLA is not paid. Almost all private employers will carry paid family leave insurance. FMLA does not include insurance, and it has a 50-employee threshold for eligibility. The length of time you must work is different. In paid family leave, if you regularly work 20 or more hours a week, you must be in employment for 26 consecutive weeks for that employer. And if you regularly work fewer than 20 hours per week, you must work 175 days for the same employer, which do not need to be consecutive. For FMLA, you must have worked for a full year and 1,250 hours in the last 52 weeks to qualify. The biggest distinction may be that under New York's paid family leave, you are taking leave to care for someone else, not for your own health condition. FMLA allows you to take leave for your own health condition. Paid family leave is only taken in full-day increments. FMLA may be taken hourly. Also, under paid family leave, you do not need to use other paid time off first. You cannot collect short-term disability and paid family leave benefits at the same time. However, you can take them one after the other. A birthing parent can, for example, take short-term disability if she qualifies and then take paid family leave. It's important to note that the total amount of time taken for disability and paid family leave cannot exceed 26 weeks in any 52-week period. To be compliant with the paid family leave law, covered employers must have coverage for at least 12 weeks of paid family leave at 67% of an employee's pay, up to the statewide cap. Employers are free to supplement paid family leave with additional benefits if they'd like. Employers can add to those benefits up to a maximum of an employee's full wages. The combined benefit from the employer and the paid family leave policy may not exceed an employee's full wages. Employers can require paid family leave to run concurrently with their own maternity and paternity leave policies. You should check with your employer about how the benefits interact. There is no age limit on taking paid family leave to bond with an adopted or fostered child. Again, just keep in mind that bonding leave must be completed within the first year of the child's adoption or foster placement. As you think about how paid family leave may be able to help you and your family, there are resources to assist you. Complete details on paid family leave are available at paidfamilyleave.ny.gov, along with other resources including paid family leave request forms and fact sheets, weekly deduction and benefit calculators, and updates for 2024. If you are thinking about taking paid family leave soon, you can download the forms now and get started filling them out. You can also contact the Paid Family Leave Helpline at 844-337-6303 for assistance. If you are not already subscribed for email updates on paid family leave, including information on upcoming webinars, you can subscribe by clicking Get Paid Family Leave Updates on the bottom of the paidfamilyleave.ny.gov homepage. You can also text WCB News and your email address to 468-311. Thank you for the opportunity to discuss New York's landmark paid family leave with you. We will now use the rest of our time to take your questions. Please keep in mind that the board is unable to provide legal advice, which includes guidance about what you should do in specific situations. If you have specific questions or concerns about a request for paid family leave, you should contact your disability and paid family leave insurance carrier, as they're the entity that makes the decision to pay or deny benefits. So I'm going to give Courtney just a moment here to go through the questions, and while she's taking a look at those, I'm going to just back it up to the slide that has all our contact information for you.
All right, thanks, Jen. The first question we have here is, while on paid family leave, can an employee go to their second part-time job at another company? And the answer is generally yes. So if you're eligible for paid family leave at one employer, and for example, not eligible at the other employer, or even if you are eligible at both employers, you can take paid family leave from one employer and not your other employer. But you just need to keep in mind that if you want to take paid family leave, you have to take it from all of the employers that you're going to take it from at the same time. So you couldn't take bonding leave from employer A and then at a later time take bonding leave from employer B. You'd have to take it from both A and B at the same time if you wanted to take it from both A and B. If you only wanted to take it from A or B, that's fine, and you can continue working your other part-time job. And then the other thing to just keep in mind is that you can't work for another employer during the hours that you would normally work for the employer from whom you're taking paid family leave. So if you work like 9 to 5 for job A, you can't then go out and get a part-time job or change your hours for that part-time job to be during 9 to 5 while you're taking paid family leave. Okay, next question here is paid family leave the same as FMLA? And the answer is no. They are two completely separate benefits. They are very similar in that they cover a lot of the same things, but FMLA is a federal unpaid leave. It's the Family and Medical Leave Act, and it can be taken for your own serious health condition or for many of the same things that paid family leave can be taken for, like bonding. Bonding is covered under both of them, but they are separate benefits with separate eligibility periods, and FMLA is unpaid, PFL is paid, so they are not the same. Okay, next question here is, I understand that paid family leave can't be taken before the child is born, but what about for foster care and adoption for things like counseling, court dates, etc.? So yes, generally paid family leave cannot be taken before the birth or placement of the child for adoption or foster care, but there is an exception in the regulations, and that is an employee who is eligible for paid family leave can take paid family leave before the actual placement of the child for adoption or foster care if an absence from work is required for that placement to proceed. So for example, a counseling session that's mandatory to appear in court, to consult with his or her attorneys, submit to a physical examination, travel to another country to complete the adoption. Those are reasons that you may be able to take paid family leave, ahead of the actual placement, but generally speaking, it is going to be within that first year following the birth or placement of the child. Okay, next question here is, does the insurance carrier vary by employer? And the answer is yes. The insurance carrier, there are about 20 to 25 insurance carriers that are authorized to write disability and paid family leave benefits in New York State. And so if you work for a covered employer, your covered employer is going to choose one of those carriers to purchase disability and paid family leave coverage from them. It's one policy. And so they would choose whoever they want. They can kind of shop around, see the rates, because for disability, the rates could be slightly different. But yes, there are 20 to 25 carriers that your employer could have coverage from. And if you're not sure who it is, you should first of all be able to ask your employer. They should be able to tell you. They should have some kind of a poster up in your workplace telling you where to apply for disability and paid family leave. And then the other way that you can find out if you can't or don't want to talk to your employer is to call the helpline that's on the screen right there and ask the representative for help with a coverage search, and they can do that for you as well. Okay, next question here is, so who's paid PFL? So I'm not sure if you're asking who gets PFL benefits or who pays the PFL benefits, so I'll just answer both. If you work for a covered employer, so that's a private employer with one or more employees in employment in New York State on each of at least 30 calendar days in a year, and then you gain eligibility, so that's about 26 weeks or 175 days, and you experience a qualifying event, you're going to be eligible for paid family leave, and then you would apply to your employer's disability and PFL insurance carrier, and they would process and pay or deny your request for paid family leave. If you are asking who pays the PFL benefits, it's going to be your employer's disability and paid family leave insurance carrier. So PFL is an insurance product. So you would apply to the carrier, and then they're the ones who are actually going to process it, and then you'll receive the benefits check from the carrier. Okay, next question here is asking about FMLA and if the employee could work another job with the same hours. So the board does not have jurisdiction over FMLA. That is a federal law. But for questions about the FMLA, you can contact the United States Department of Labor Wage and Hour Division. So that's who's going to have jurisdiction over the FMLA and questions about what you can and can't do during FMLA. Okay, next question here is, can I take PFL and disability at the same time? The answer is no. Under the law, you cannot take statutory disability and paid family leave at the same time. You can take them separately. So for example, if after giving birth, you're eligible for both disability and paid family leave, you cannot take them at the same time. A lot of people take disability first to recover from giving birth, and then they take paid family leave after that. And then just something to keep in mind about disability and PFL is that there is a combined 26-week maximum in a 52-week period for paid family leave. So you have the 12-week maximum for paid family leave, but then there's also combined statutory disability and paid family leave. You're limited to 26 weeks in a 52-week period. Okay, next question here is, what type of paperwork is needed if an employee wants to take PFL before the actual foster placement? So I can't provide legal advice, so I'm not going to be able to tell you, here's exactly what you need. If you look at the instructions on the PFL form, so the PFL-1 and the PFL-2 in this case for bonding leave, there are examples and there are very detailed instructions about what kind of documentation you need. You can also direct specific questions, like if you're not sure if your documentation is going to be sufficient, you may want to talk to your employer's disability and paid family leave insurance carrier because, like I said, they are the ones who are actually going to be processing and paying or denying that request for paid family leave. Okay, next question here is, an employee cannot be out on DB and also on PFL to care for a parent or child, right? Correct. You cannot take statutory disability and paid family leave at the same time, even if it's for different reasons. Under the law, you cannot receive benefits for both disability and paid family leave at the same time. Okay, next question here is, if I had a C-section, I heard I can get disability too. How does that work? So if you are eligible for disability, which for many employees is just after 4 weeks of employment with a covered employer, and you have an off-the-job injury or illness, and you're disabled for at least 7 days, then you can get disability benefits. And you can find information about that actually on the Paid Family Leave site. If you go kind of to like paid family leave and other benefits, there is a whole section about disability and paid family leave, because for bonding leave, many people do take disability and then PFL. So for example, after a C-section, you are considered disabled for 8 weeks following the C-section. So you may want to apply for disability benefits. So that's a separate, it's going to be the same carrier, but it is a separate application form that you're going to fill out, and it has separate medical documentation. And if you go to the board's website, which is wcb.ny.gov, there you can find information about disability benefits and kind of more detailed information about applying for disability. And then after that, you can apply for paid family leave if you're eligible for it, and that's up to the 12 weeks. And again, limited to that 26 weeks of combined disability and paid family leave in a 52-week period. Okay, next question here is, what can an employer do if they suspect that someone is abusing paid family leave? So for example, they're not really out of work taking care of their family member. And so if an employer believes that the employee is committing fraud or something like that, they're free to contact their disability and paid family leave insurance carrier and let them know. So you can contact them with all of your concerns about if you think that the employee is committing fraud, and then the carrier may do an investigation, but they're the ones who are going to process and pay or deny those requests for paid family leave. So you're going to want to contact your disability and paid family leave insurance carrier. Okay, I see another question here asking if this presentation will be available online, and the answer is yes. You will be able to receive a copy of the presentation. It will be online. If you go to the Paid Family Leave website now, we do have other recordings from previous versions of all of the Paid Family Leave presentations, so you can also see those there. Okay, so we did get another question, and before I do that, I will just address that we also received another question. Will we receive a copy of the presentation? Yes. And right now, there is also recorded versions of previous iterations of this and all of the other types of webinars that we have, and that's at that website that's on the screen, so paidfamilyleave.ny.gov. So we did get another question here, and the question is, can you take FMLA for 12 weeks unpaid and then use PFL for 26 weeks paid? So no. The maximum amount of PFL is not 26 weeks, it's 12 weeks. The 26 weeks I was talking about is a combined 26 weeks of paid family leave and statutory disability. Statutory disability is available for up to 26 weeks in a 52-week period. Paid family leave is available for up to 12 weeks. So even if you have a qualifying event or several qualifying events, that would otherwise mean that you could get more than 12 weeks, you are limited to 12 weeks of PFL in a 52-week period. So definitely cannot get 26 weeks of paid family leave in a 52-week period. The other thing to keep in mind for FMLA is that FMLA and PFL for the same qualifying event are going to be taken at the same time unless your employer explicitly allows you to take them separately. So generally speaking, available FMLA and PFL, like for bonding leave, for example, they are going to be taken at the same time. So if you take 12 weeks of bonding leave, your FMLA and your employer is subject to FMLA, your FMLA is going to run concurrently with that, meaning at the same time. So that is 12 weeks of FMLA unpaid and 12 weeks of PFL, which is paid, and they're going to be taken at the same time. So it's 12 weeks total of both of them. And that's, again, if your employer is subject to it and you're eligible for it. So if you took FMLA, for example, for your own serious health condition earlier in the year and now you're taking bonding leave and you don't have any FMLA available to you, that's okay. Like, that doesn't affect your eligibility for paid family leave. But generally speaking, FMLA and PFL for the same qualifying event are going to be taken at the same time.
All right, that looks like all the questions we have. Thank you, Courtney, and thank you to everyone for joining us today. You can sign up to receive paid family news, including information on future webinars, straight to your inbox. To sign up, visit the Paid Family Leave website, scroll down to the bottom of the homepage, and select Get Updates. You can also text WCB News and your email address to 468-311. We also distribute information via our social media channels, so please follow the Workers' Compensation Board on Facebook, X, Instagram, and YouTube. We thank you all for joining us again and enjoy the rest of your afternoon.